Hi, my name is Yulia, and I will be interviewed today by Dr. Gloria Kay. Hi, Gloria.
Oh, Yulia, hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Wonderful spending time with you.
I feel the same way. Now, please tell me, what will we be talking about today?
Today we'll be talking about what love is not.
That's an interesting topic. How did you get to that point where you wanted to talk about what love is not?
Well, it gets sometimes so confusing, and because we have not received unconditional love as we were children, or actually, it's such a rare thing to um, experience that, and we so much confuse manipulation or different acts acts and behaviors and thinking that it is love, but really it turns
Oh.
out to be that actually it is not.
So, if one is in lust, one is not necessarily in love. So, would you say lust is not love? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yes, and it's kind of gets complicated, right? Because we can experience all those emotions or feelings, but when we can differentiate and be conscious that we're in lust, it actually turns into love because we are about it. So we can play
Oh.
with that energy of lust, but when we know that it's actually, it's like only one shade of some kind of love, but it's not a um, co-foundation for love, then we can actually experience all those energies, seduction and lust, and play with manipulation, but we are conscious about it. And then when we're conscious about it, it's more like an expression of energy that can pass.
Uh-huh.
But it is when we're confusing lust for love and thinking that we're in love, but actually, there is no foundation or core to build your relationship on, then it will crumble at some point, and we were like, oh, what happened,
So the point is, one needs to be conscious. Is that mainly what you're saying? If you approach a relationship with consciousness, then lust can be turned to love. I believe that's what you said.
Lust can be just part of the flavor that of experience, but we're aware that it's not what relationship is built on.
I
Some
see.
relationships are built on lust, and then eventually it just crumbles because there is no like you say, like no pillars where it stands on.
So getting back to this idea of manipulation. Now, when one is manipulated in a relationship, would you say that's what love is not? And before you answer that, I just want to comment on what I've heard from many women, that they seem to lose themselves in relationships and then they wonder where they've gone. So, could you comment on that?
Yes, usually we get manipulated when we don't have clear boundaries or sense of ourselves. When we have a clear sense of ourselves, it's actually very hard to be manipulated because we can spot it. It's when we develop that codependency of wanting something from another person for the sense of our own self-worth or self-value, or there is this becomes a codependency and strings attached. And so if I'm dependent on somebody else, then actually I'm more likely to accept the manipulation from another person.
I see.
So when I'm clear about who I am and what is behavior is acceptable and what is not, I can spot manipulation much
Mm-hmm.
faster. The versus if I am in a kind of victim mode and I need a validation from another
I
person.
see. Let me ask you this. What do you think about the concept of intradependency, where you depend on each other and you grow through the relationship?
Yes, that's a beautiful place to be. But again and again, it requires a very differentiated sense of yourself and letting the other person be who they are. Usually, codependency happens when we try to change somebody so they can fit into the needs and desires of what we need from them. Versus the interdependency is where both individuals are responsible for their own fulfillment, and instead of looking for it outside, they spend time with themselves to discover who they are, what they want, and change with those new waves.
I see. So if a person comes to the table somewhat refined, and they're equally refined, and they bring that to the table, that hopefully would validate the relationship. Would you agree with that?
Right, then it becomes when two individuals take responsibility to fill their own cup first and pursue their dreams and what they value, and then they come together to share that and to exchange, then that's where the enrichment happens. That's where everybody's essence get amplified instead of chopped, taken away from another person. So when we come with that full table where we take responsibility for growing inside of us, living our best lives, coming up from the fullness, and we bring that to the table, then that's beautiful exchange can happen. Then everybody is a win. For everybody, it is a win-win situation.
Well, I think that's a wonderful piece of advice. So I thank you so much, and please stay tuned for these talks.